Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if how connected you feel to others actually changes how you see the world and the people in it? Well, this team of researchers asked exactly that, and they found some really cool answers. Basically, they wanted to know if the way we experience our relationships, like how close we feel to people, or if we feel lonely actually shapes the way we make guesses about what other people are thinking and feeling. Think of it like this. If you are super connected to people, do you tend to make pretty similar judgments about others as most people do? But if you are feeling disconnected or lonely, maybe your way of understanding others becomes a little more unique or, well, idiosyncratic. They had a hunch that this might be true, kind of like that famous saying that happy families are all alike, but every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. They thought maybe the same applied to our social connections and how we see the social world. To figure this out, they did 2 studies with lots of college students. They measured different sides of social connection, like how lonely people felt, how much social support they felt they had from family and friends, and how satisfied they were with their friendships. Then they gave them a task that measures social inference. This is essentially how well people can guess what someone else is thinking or feeling based on just their facial expressions, specifically their eyes. They used a version of a well-known test called the Reading the Mind in the Eyes test. So imagine a bunch of pictures showing just the eyes of different people. For each picture, participants had to choose from 4 words what emotion or thought the person might be having. They also had to rate how sure they were about their guess. The researchers then looked at how similar or different everyone's guesses were from each other. They called this intersubject dissimilarity. They then compared this dissimilarity in social inference to how dissimilar people were in their social connection measures. It is a bit complex, but they were basically asking if people who are different in their social lives are also different in their social guesses in a similar pattern. And here is where it gets interesting. In the first study, they didn't find a strong connection, but in the second study, with more participants, they saw a clear pattern. They found that the way people differed in their social connection mirrored how they differed in their social inference. In simpler terms, people who had similar patterns of social connection experiences also tended to have similar patterns of differences in how they interpreted social cues. This suggests there is a kind of shared fingerprint between our relationships and our minds. But they wanted to go deeper. They looked at whether the degree of social connection, not just the pattern, was related to how unique our social inferences were. And in their second study, they found that yes, it was. People who reported more loneliness tended to make more idiosyncratic or unique social inferences. On the flip side, people who felt more socially supported and happier with their friendships made social inferences that were more similar to others, less idiosyncratic. What does this idiosyncrasy or uniqueness actually mean in practice? The researchers looked at task performance, specifically accuracy and certainty. They found that greater accuracy in social inference was linked to less dissimilarity among people, and greater certainty was also linked to less dissimilarity, though to a lesser degree. Now, here is the crucial part that helps explain the so what. They investigated if this idiosyncrasy was driven by inaccuracy in social inference, and it seems it largely was. The findings suggest that when people are more socially disconnected and feel lonelier, they tend to make more inaccurate judgments about what others are feeling or thinking. It is like their internal understanding of minds gets a bit distorted. They might be pulled away from what is considered a canonical or standard understanding of how people express emotions. This makes sense, because positive social interactions offer a lot of practice in learning and interpreting social cues. If you lack those positive connections, you might miss out on that learning, and your internal models for understanding others could become a bit underdeveloped. This is really important because it suggests that loneliness doesn't just feel bad, it might actively change how we process social information, making us less accurate in understanding others. It could lead to a cycle where, because you are misinterpreting social cues, you have more negative social interactions, which then makes you feel even more disconnected. Now, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. The study was cross-sectional, meaning it looked at people at one point in time. So while it shows a link, it can't definitively say that loneliness causes these changes in social inference. It is possible that difficulties with social inference could also lead to loneliness. They also mentioned that the tests used, while standard, aren't perfectly like real life social interactions. Future research could explore this causal direction more directly, perhaps by trying to experimentally increase social connection and see if social inference improves. They also bring up that unmeasured things like personality traits, mental health conditions like depression or social anxiety, and even cultural expectations could play a role in these connections. It's often a mix of many factors, but the main takeaway is pretty powerful. The more we are socially connected, the more our social cognitive processes, like understanding others, might align with a common understanding of the social world. When we're disconnected, our attempts to understand others might become more individual and less accurate. This highlights that social cognition isn't just an isolated skill. It is deeply intertwined with our fundamental need for belonging. It also suggests that if we want to improve social connection, perhaps targeting aspects of social cognition, like teaching better ways to infer mental states, could be a promising avenue. My take on this research is that it really underscores just how vital social connection is, not just for our emotional well-being, but for our very ability to navigate the social world. It is not just about feeling good, it is about functioning effectively in a social context. The idea that loneliness can literally warp how we perceive others is a strong call to action, both for individuals and for society to prioritize fostering genuine connections. The fact that the second study, which used a more diverse set of faces in their social inference task, yielded stronger results also suggests that representational inclusivity in our tools of understanding matters. Perhaps the canonical understanding is more diverse than we've previously measured with older tests. It is a reminder that our brains are wired for connection, and when that need isn't met, it seems to ripple out into how we see and interpret everything around us. This is fascinating stuff, and it definitely gives us more to think about when it comes to our own social lives and the well-being of our communities. What do you all think about these findings? Does it resonate with your own experiences? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this exploration of the mind interesting, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more deep dives into the fascinating world of psychology. We'll see you in the next video.